Part 7. My Love Simulation with Them. Author, Chiudeo Udaziiwe. Chapter 61. He had no choice but to put this matter aside for the time being and immerse his consciousness into the simulation again. Everything seems to be going smoothly. But as time continues to pass, you are keenly aware of it after having been in contact with Jinmyukinzu for a long time. Under the girl's lively, happy, and carefree face, there seems to be other, more hidden, unknown emotions hidden. You can only feel this emotion, but you can't guess what it is. However, occasionally after the performance, when I talk to Nishiki Kishu about the future or future dreams, she, who has always been an eccentric and happy elf, will always show an indescribable relief at this time, or look down on it emotions. You realize that she may be hiding something from you, but as a friend, you can't get to the bottom of this issue. Gradually, for some reason, the days when she comes to your outdoor performance are becoming fewer and fewer. You gradually begin to feel a little uneasy, but every time you meet her, she is still so happy, and you don't see any worries. She will always be happy when chatting with you. When I talk about being happy, I will still cover my stomach with one hand as usual, reaching out to pat your back affectionately, laughing until I shed tears. You sense something is wrong, but when the words come to your lips, you always fail to say them. After another performance, you meet her as usual. But this time, you changed your usual hesitation and thinking and asked what was on your mind. In the simulation, the long river of memory flows slowly. Yo. Ashi. Your performance today was really good. How did you do it? You can actually give such an outstanding performance every time. Sitting on the bench, she stretched out her hand cheerfully and waved to Nanxiangshi, who had just finished her performance, saying, "Hurry up, this way, this way." As if she didn't care about other people's eyes at all, she sat on the bench as if on a swing, kicking her fair and pink calves one after another, looking happy and comfortable. Nanxiangshi put the guitar between the two of them, and there was some silence. What's wrong? There was some strange sound, and the white feet that were kicking forward stopped. A long silence. Nothing. After a moment of silence, he made a sound and looked ahead at the fountain at Shimokitazawa Square. The sun sets and the fountain gushes. Water droplets refract light. The entire Shimokitazawa Square is set off with an indescribable sense of poignancy. Yet, she, who was always lively, seemed to notice something and fell silent. Silence spread wordlessly between the two. A while passed. Thousands of bunches. A sudden sound. Boredly counting the cracks in the floor, she subconsciously raised her head. You must have something on your mind, right? If you don't mind, you can talk to me, he said. Why? His sudden speech made Nishiki Kishu unable to help but open his mouth. Originally, she was going to use the usual joke-like phrase, "What's on your mind?" to get over it. But when Jinmyukinshu saw his face without any hesitation or confusion, she fell into silence again. She looked up. A white dove flew across her eyes. After a while. There is something I want to say. There was still a somewhat cheerful voice. That. But I don't want to say those words to Ashi in this state just yet. This sentence made Nanxiangshi tilt his head. In the setting sun, the girl sitting on the bench was hugging her knees, her fair chin resting on her knees, and she was looking at him with her head sideways. Seeing him looking over, Nishiki Chisuk tilted his head and laughed hee hee. Then she stood up directly and pointed at Nanxiangshi's face, "Because you have such a handsome face, but you dare to show such a boring expression in front of me. Master Qianshu, I am really dissatisfied." She pretended to be angry, put her hands on her hips cutely, turned around and touched something again and threw it over. Nangxiang subconsciously caught it and felt a cold touch. Look down. It turned out that what I bought was a bottle of orange-flavored soda. Drink it quickly and don't look like that again. Nishiki Kishu hugged his sizable chest and hummed proudly, in front of Lord Kishu, "It is enough to be happy." Nangxiangshi couldn't help but glance at her, and then drank it in one gulp, with a look of disgust on his face. "It's so sweet, and why is it a bit astringent?" "Hey hey." Nishiki Kishu put the guitar aside with a smile, "This is my favorite drink." "Is it?" "Of course. Otherwise I can swear." She stretched out her 5 fingers and made a funny gesture to swear. "That's not necessary." The atmosphere gradually became lively due to her efforts. She started talking and laughing with Nangxiang as usual. Then, "Oh, I'm so satisfied." Stretching greatly, she exhaled comfortably. Then, "Let's talk about my business tomorrow," she murmured to herself as she looked at the beautiful scenery of the fountain in Shimokitazawa Square and the setting sun. "Why?" he asked, sitting next to her. "The reason, how to put it, right, he. As if she thought of something, she turned her head and gave him the cutest and most energetic smile in the world. "Lord Qianshu, I don't want to ruin such a beautiful scenery for the time being." Yet, in the face of her statement, as a friend, you can only respect her. You also know that since she has said this, there is a high probability that you will get the answer from her tomorrow. This time, in order to satisfy her, you worked hard to prepare all night, and even put on headphones to practice for a long time. You have never looked forward to tomorrow so much. Time continues to go on. A night is long, but a night is also short. After recuperating for the night, you took all your equipment and headed to Shimokitazawa Square again. You have performed outdoors at Shimokitazawa Square several times, and now you have a considerable number of passers-by fans. Although Nishiki Kishu ridiculed the fact that most of them were women, you didn't care. For you, working hard to do a good job in this outdoor performance is the real key. After debugging all the equipment normally, you stand on the steps of Shimokitazawa Square and look down. Usually, you can see that familiar figure in that position. But something seems a little different today. She did not appear at her usual location. You feel strange, and there is a sudden feeling of uneasiness in your heart, but with your complete preparations, the outdoor performance was successfully completed. After the performance, you did not deal with the fans as usual, but came to the bench where you often meet her. She who made an appointment with you did not show up as promised. The bench has lost its usual temperature. That day, you sat on the bench and waited for a long time. You don't understand why she, who always keeps her promises, didn't show up. Her absence has become a regret in your heart. But just thinking without taking action will not give you the answer. Thinking of this, you did not hesitate, continued practicing the guitar, and continued the career of outdoor performances, hoping that your music could attract her again. Your guitar skills have improved by leaps and bounds during this period. The rapid improvement of your guitar skills will also bring you a large number of listeners and fans. Gradually, your fame did not stop at the square in Shimokitazawa. Someone posted your video on the internet, and you soon gained a large number of young fans on the internet. But you don't care about this, you just play as always and wait for that person to appear. Since you only performed in Shimokitazawa Square and no one showed up in other performance halls or other places, you were nicknamed Shimokitazawa's Guitar Immortal. Performing day after day has made your guitar skills more and more sophisticated, and your number of fans has also increased. Finally, people from music magazines and TV stations came to interview you. The host is curious about why you are so dedicated to Shimokitazawa Square, because as long as you are willing, countless bands are willing to invite you to join, and your stage should be more than this. Facing the camera, you just smiled and didn't say much, but your eyes stayed on the bench not far away. In fact, you have been vaguely certain in your heart that the happy and joyful girl who was like a flash in the pan in your life will probably never appear again. You really want to know what she is doing, and also want to know if she has forgotten you as a friend. But these words are all stuck in her mouth now, unable to be conveyed, transmitted, or let her know. You are no longer obsessed with Shimokitazawa while using your fame to help end the band's reputation, you also began to consider horizontal development. The following year, with excellent grades, you were admitted to Tokyo University of the Arts, where you continued your studies. In school, you are not limited to guitar, you are involved in vocal music, opera, percussion, and other music. But what shocked everyone was your unparalleled talent in composing. While you were studying at school, you composed many songs that were very popular among young people. On the internet, you have become the guitar immortal of Shimokitazawa, and you have also gained the title of Young Composer of Attack. You don't care about these things, you are immersed in your own music world, your musical attainments are getting higher and higher, you write more and more songs and are recognized by more people. My love simulation with them. Author, Chiudeo Udazi. Chapter 62. The second year after graduation, you became the youngest professor-lecturer at Tokyo University of the Arts. At this time, the outside world has recognized you as a composer master of the younger generation. With your help, ending the band's progress will be smooth sailing. Everything is developing for the best. When I met up with friends who had finished the band for dinner, when they were chatting and laughing, they would occasionally mention the girl who was as happy as an elf that they often saw in Shimokitazawa Square. She disappeared without saying a word, which made them feel a little dissatisfied, but they sincerely wished her a better life. When you hear these words, you who have already achieved success will always show a look of reminiscence. Although you and she have always been good friends, you have never gotten close to her heart. Her sudden disappearance is because you were young, and even now, it is a regret that cannot be erased. Perhaps you were thinking of other things that night. You were inspired and wrote a poem called Thousands of Euonymus Flowers, in Japanese, Thousands of Bunches of Euonymus That Seal. This is your last memory of her when you commemorate your youth. Time continues to pass, but regret will not be erased with the passage of time. Yamada Ryo, who ended the band, married you. You and her are very much in love, but at this stage, you are gradually getting older. On your deathbed, you caressed your wife's face lovingly and recalled everything in your life. You probably felt regretful that you hadn't seen her yet. In my memory, she always has her hands behind her back, kicking her fair and clean calves wrapped in black socks, smiling and full of energy. And this precious memory is about to fade. Simulation ends. System score, 36 points. System evaluation, the regret of the heart, the regret of the wish. Your acquaintance with her is a complete accident. She is always so dazzling and full of energy. Although you and she have always been good friends, you have never gotten close to her heart. Her sudden disappearance is a regret that cannot be erased when you are young, even when you are old. She treats everyone so gently, never preaches or loses her temper, including you, but your relationship only ends there. Life is not long, but the moment of death is very long. Although you are living a very happy life at the end of your life, you still have unspeakable regrets for her. You don't understand why she left without saying goodbye, just like you don't understand why she broke into your life like a storm. You never saw her again. Chapter 75. Your relationship is progressing rapidly, 4,000 words. System settlement, your music expertise has been partially improved, and your current level is LV2. 36 points. Look at this score and system settlement page. At the same time, feeling the deep regretful memories in his mind, Nangxiang could not speak for a long time. Except for not understanding the urine properties of the simulator in the first game, Nangxiang had never received such a low score again. But he was actually mentally prepared for this score. Because during this week, apart from becoming friends with Nishiki Kishu, he had no other further relationship. They didn't even become lovers, and the simulator was willing to give him 36 points. Nangxiangshi even felt that it was too much. But similarly, Nangxiangshi couldn't understand it either. Obviously everything before was going according to his plan. Boil the frog in warm water and everything is perfect. As long as there is enough time in the future, he will surely be able to take his relationship with Nishiki Kishu further, right? A happy ending must not be difficult. And it was clear that Nishiki Kishu had already agreed with him that he would tell him about her after that day. Nangxiang was confident that as long as he knew what she wanted to tell him, his relationship with her would definitely get better. But at the end of the agreed day, she never showed up again. Nangxiang she lay completely on the bed, completely confused. Through simulation, he actually already had a general understanding of Nishiki Kishu. Cheerful and energetic, enthusiastic and generous, always smiling, she has a quirky feeling towards others, but perhaps the only thing that remains unchanged is her gentle and friendly attitude towards everyone. She is cheerful and can even drag the gloomy Goto around. It is this rare appeal that makes everyone in the simulation become her friends without exception. That's exactly what it is. Nangxiang could not think of the reason why the other party did not perform the contract. Logically speaking, since it has been said, Nishiki Kishu's character will never give up on fulfilling the promise. No. The simulation may have given hints a long time ago. Nangxiang frowned. There was a passage in the simulation that he remembered deeply. However, occasionally after the performance, when I talk to Nishiki Kishu about the future or future dreams, she, who has always been an eccentric and happy elf, will always show an indescribable relief at this time, or look down on it emotions. This is where the problem should arise. When Nangxiang closed his eyes, he muttered to himself. But just like that, he still couldn't figure out the specific reason why Nishiki Kishu couldn't fulfill the contract, so he could only make a vague guess. Perhaps it wasn't that Nishiki Kishu didn't want to fulfill her contract, but that she simply couldn't come. So, readjust your gaze. Open the simulation in Nangxiang and look at the options from the beginning again. 1. Actively prepare for tomorrow's performance and hope to attract them with your good looks and guitar skills. It is definitely not a problem to continue to develop in depth with the other party. 2. It's too tiring to practice guitar all the time, why not learn to relax? 3. If you like her, you must get her only by knowing yourself and your enemy. Can you be victorious in every battle? Prepare for tomorrow's performance and at the same time prepare to follow the blonde girl. 4. Simulate in person. 4 options neatly arranged. It takes 4 simulations to simulate it in person, and it still looks so high and inviolable. Nangxiang skipped the 4th option and focused on the first 3 options. The first option has been proven by week 1 itself to be 100% wrong. So, will it be the second option? Nangxiang looked at the second option. It's better to learn to relax. This option will undoubtedly lead to the path of learning monsters. There is a high probability that the self in the simulation will be addicted to the sea of learning and eventually miss out on contact with Nishiki Kishu. Then only what Nangxiang she thought was the most outrageous third option was left. 3. If you like her, you must get her only by knowing yourself and your enemy. Can you be victorious in every battle? Prepare for tomorrow's performance and at the same time prepare to follow the blonde girl. Is it really you? Looking at this line of text, Nangxiang was a little dumbfounded. Whether it's the text description or the subsequent processing, this option is outrageous and opens the door to outrageousness. It's so outrageous. Stalking, isn't that something only idiots do? But Nangxiang she had to believe that this option was the best option. After all, there is a saying in Sherlock Holmes that is very good. Once you eliminate all impossibilities, what remains, no matter how improbable, is the truth. When applied here, it will not be out of the ordinary. No matter how outrageous, exaggerated or incomprehensible this third option is, it is also likely to be correct. Thinking of this, Nangxiang couldn't help but shake his head. A regrettable ending of 36 points. I have never seen Nishiki Kishu's sadness again. 2 emotions swirled. You must know that he started as a Tianhu at the beginning. The favorability level of admiration. I originally thought it would be a simple happy ending. but what he didn't expect was that it would turn out like this in the end. Then do it again. Nang Xiangxi briefly took a look at his heart rate. Thanks to Miss Godu, he still has 1530 heartbeat points left. With the previous regretful ending in mind, Nang Xiangxi didn't believe that he and Nishiki Kishu wouldn't be able to find a happy ending this time. Nang Xiangxi did not hesitate to spend 300 points to exchange for a simulation opportunity. Current heart rate remaining, 1230. The current number of simulations remaining, 1. After a simple system prompt, the system prompt reappeared in front of Nang Xiangxi. Start simulation? Yes. Without hesitation, just choose yes. Woke up from the quilt, with irreplaceable regretful memories still in your mind, you wiped the sweat from your head, looked at the time that had not passed, and recalled the blonde girl in your dream who had deep regrets with you. This time, you are determined to get a better ending with her. For this reason, you decide. 1. Just like in a dream, prepare for tomorrow's performance. I believe that this time you will be different from the last time. 2. Dreams and everything are false. It's too tiring to practice guitar all the time. Why not send a message to Yamada Ryo and tease her, wouldn't it be more fun? 3. If you like her, you must get her only by knowing yourself and the enemy. Can you be victorious in every battle? Don't hesitate anymore. While preparing for tomorrow's performance, we must also start preparing to stalk the blonde girl. 4. Simulate in person. The 3 options are basically the same as before. But what Nang Xiangxi had to complain about was Miss Yamada, you. Looking at Ryo Yamada's name appearing in the second option, Nang Xiang didn't know what to say for a long time. How many times has this happened to Ms. Yamada? Do you really think of dating simulation as a card pool lottery? Is Ms. Yamada a permanent character in this card pool? Nang Xiangxi shook his head speechlessly. Although he still hesitated, this time, he chose the third option. If you like a woman, there is no doubt that you want to get her, but you still don't know anything about the woman who breaks into your life like a sudden rain. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My love simulation with them. Author, Chiudeo Udaziiwei. Chapter 63. You know very well that under this woman's cheerful and enthusiastic appearance, there are other unknown secrets hidden. You decide that while preparing for the performance, you should also be prepared to investigate her even when necessary. It is a wise decision to follow her. But you already knew it from the regretful dream before. She is cheerful and enthusiastic and seems to have a reaction ability that is incomparable to ordinary people. If you rashly start to follow up, there is a high probability that you will be caught by the other party. If this matter is exposed, even if she has a great affection for you, she may leave you because of it. Of course you know this very well. You gave up the plan to boil the frog in warm water, and you have an IQ that is incomparable to ordinary people. You decide to use the performance to attract the girl's attention first, and after your relationship with the girl gets better, you will wait for an opportunity to prepare for the follow-up. It is obviously your first time to do this kind of thing, but for some reason, you seem to be familiar with it, as if you have extremely rich experience and are self-taught. Hiss. Nang Xiangxi looked at the simulated words and felt that he was really being ridiculed by the simulator. But he soon regained his composure. It is natural for a person as outstanding as him to be envied by the simulator. No need to be angry. Your specialty, narcissism, has been greatly improved. Your current narcissism level is LV3. Ah! The system prompt that suddenly popped up made Nang Xiang confused for a moment. He opened his panel and discovered that the narcissism trait that was originally LV2 has now become LV3. Nang Xiangxi. In just 3 days, his narcissism level has actually caught up with Miss Yamada's. To be honest, Nang Xiangxi really couldn't accept it. He felt more that the simulator confused narcissism and self-confidence. How could something go wrong with him? Never mind. There is no point in dwelling on this. Shaking his head, he threw all these miscellaneous thoughts out of his mind. Nangxiang refocused his attention on simulation. You finalize the plan, determine the details, and then start preparing for the open-air performance. Open-air performance is a way for you to attract her, and of course it cannot be taken lightly. You secretly make up your mind that this time you must stay away from the previous regrets and find a perfect ending again. The next day, you started performing outdoors again in the square of Shimokitazawa. Everything is just like the regretful memory before. She stops for your music again. She was very satisfied with your carefully prepared outdoor performance, and her admiration for you increased. After the performance, you were already familiar with the audience and fans who passed by you, walked up to her, and took the initiative to chat with her. She was a little surprised by your initiative to say hello, and she was sincerely happy that you still remembered her name and was so enthusiastic and cheerful. In yesterday's dream, you already knew her interests and hobbies, so you deliberately chose a topic about movies. Under your deliberate guidance, she was so happy that she didn't realize that you had gained more information without her knowing it. This includes her favorite foods, recent worries, and three-dimensional data of her body. If language has levels, then you can be called a demon of language. But you are not interested in any of this. What you are most concerned about is why she left without saying goodbye in the dream. What makes you regretful is that even though she has perfect language skills, she seems to be wary and did not reveal any information to you. Although you feel regretful, considering that it is only the second day, it is already very good to have such progress, so you cheer up again. When you were leaving and saying goodbye, you made a special trip to ask her for her line account. In the evening, while preparing for the next outdoor performance, you did not forget to open line and chat with her. She has a lot of desire to chat, as if she never lacks energy, and is always so happy after chatting. You find that she seems to be very interested in how to play the guitar. This cheered you up. You felt like you had an opportunity, so you took the initiative to ask her to teach her guitar skills. But as mentioned before, she seems to be cheerful and enthusiastic in this regard, and she seems to be shrewd in this regard that ordinary people cannot match. She did not disclose the specific address information to you, but sent a picture of Yuan Kai Cat online to thank you for your kindness. Although you regret this, you are not discouraged. Optimism and superpower of action have always been your reliance. You believe that under your indiscriminate bombardment, even if her heart is locked, you will blow it out enough for you to get in cracks come out. You are like a patient hunter lurking in the darkness, waiting for an opportunity to hunt her who is unaware of her. As long as there is a chance, you will not hesitate to squeeze into the girl's heart, even if you may end up with bruises all over your body. And if you want to make her who seems carefree and cheerful, but is actually very wary, open her heart and relax her vigilance, there is no doubt that you must first improve her intimacy with you. That night, you not only practiced guitar, but also refreshed your knowledge on movies. Your knowledge of guitar and movies has improved slightly. The next day, after the performance, you sat on the bench with her, and she curiously asked you about guitar and movies. This time, you, who had been prepared for a long time, had a smoother conversation with her, further arousing her desire to talk. She is attracted to you who is optimistic and humorous. Not only for your musical skills, this time, she has become slightly interested in you as a person who has the same hobbies as her. Nishiki Kishi's relationship with you has deepened. You attracted Nishiki Kishi's attention. The relationship between you is progressing rapidly. Chapter 76. Your tale and talent is extraordinary, 4,000 words. Your relationship with her has grown by leaps and bounds. After this line came out, Nangxiang felt a little relieved. Although I gave up the more reliable method of boiling the frog in warm water, the more radical option seems to be very good. At least in the last week, although his relationship with Nishiki Chisuk was progressing steadily, there was no such progress at all. Let's continue reading. Although becoming friends with her is a matter of course, just like in the regretful dream, you and her are just friends. You clearly understand that beneath her cheerful, carefree beauty, there are still hidden secrets. She is still gentle and unwilling to share the hidden secret with you or anyone. You are not discouraged, let alone give up, because you have already made up your mind secretly. This time you must figure everything out. You continue to study tailing, tracking, and other techniques, but at the same time you have not given up on film and music research. Your academic performance has dropped slightly due to your excellent mind. Your tail tracking talent is extraordinary. Your tail walking and tracking skills have increased significantly, and your film and music research has slightly improved. Nangxiangshi. Ignoring the words "your tail tracking talent is extraordinary," I immersed myself in the simulation again. Since you have specially studied the hobbies of the blonde girl, every time you discuss with her, you can always bring out some ideas that make her eyes shine. She will always curiously ask you various questions about music and movies, and your rich professional knowledge fascinates her. She started calling you frequently online. Your relationship with Nishiki Kishu has deepened. You have become her more important friend. Watch the girl deepening her relationship with you step by step, stepping into the trap you carefully laid out step by step. You are very satisfied because everything is according to your plan. Now, the time seems to be ripe, you decide. 1. As expected, stalking is a crime. As a perfect young man, I should not do this. I should actively prepare for the performance and rely on the right path to win it. 2. The end of the band. Ryo Yamada, this woman, actually took advantage of me to study music and movies and secretly had a meal with me. She really wanted to tie her up and give her a good education, right? 3. We have already prepared for this. There is no turning back. I must win the heart of Nishiki Kishu. For this reason, even if you are followed, you will not hesitate. 4. Simulate it yourself. 3 options pop up. The content above can be said to be more outrageous than the last. And Miss Yamada, a woman whose family is so rich, actually extorted money from a poor person like him. Is this person serious? Nangxiangshi couldn't help but twitch the corner of his mouth. Could it be that she used the guardian spirit to blackmail her for 1,000 yen last time, so she blackmailed her back again? No way. Nangxiangshi muttered to himself, a little unsure. Because according to the character of Ms. Yamada in the previous simulation, she is really a woman who can do this. Forget it. There is no point in thinking about whether 1,000 yen will go or leave in the simulation. Nangxiangshi set his sights on the third option. After hesitating for a while, he finally chose it. Yes, the last trip plan has been prepared to this point. How can we give up so easily? Although you hesitated, you decided to carry out the plan. Through consecutive days of outdoor performances, you have some spare money in your hands. It was the more enthusiastic Big Sister fans who put this money into your hands when you performed outdoors. Because you always felt that the money came from something unfair, you didn't use it. But now you no longer care about that much. You decided to invest the money in the plan. You purchased a micro-locator online. At the same time, you, who have long been aware of Nishiki Kishu's hobby, purchased a palm-sized bear doll from a nearby doll store. You hide the micro-locator inside the bear doll and you are perfectly prepared. With your current close relationship with her, even if you give her some small gifts, she will definitely not refuse. During the simulation, the memory of buying a bear doll and a micro-locator flashed through my mind when I was in Nangxiang. He couldn't help but take a breath. No. It was obviously my first time doing this kind of thing, so why did I feel so familiar in the simulation? We even took into account Nishiki Kishu's character and relationship with Nishiki Kishu. Is it possible that I am really talented in this area? This thought came to Nangxiangshi's mind. But the next second, he shook his head and rejected it. No, 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 how is that possible? How can the self in the simulation be equated with the self in reality? and for a girl like Nishiki Kishu who hides things deep in her heart and endures them silently. If such action is not taken, so there is a high probability that it will be just like the last week, full of regrets in the end, right? I casually found an excuse to convince myself, and the simulation continued. My love simulation with them. Author, Chiudeo Udazi Iway. Chapter 64. The next day, after the performance, you used magic to take out the bear doll in front of Nishiki Kishu. During the simulation, the remembered scenes emerge like spots of light. Wow! With her blonde hair swaying, Nishiki Kishu took 2 steps to the left cutely and glanced at the little bear doll sitting in Nangxiang's palm. Then she tilted her head again, took 2 more steps to the right, and took another look. The doll's exquisite workmanship and cute movements completely caught her attention. So cute. She couldn't help mumbling to herself, and reached out to touch the bear doll in Nan Xiangxi's hand. But Nan Xiangxi's palm retracted at the right time, causing her fair and tender little hands to fall away. Hey? Ah she, you are so stingy. I obviously just want to touch and see. The girl puffed her cheeks angrily and acted coquettishly when facing Nang Xiang. Likewise, she was actually a little surprised in her heart. Because except for the manager of her own coffee shop who raised her since she was a child, she has never taken the initiative to act coquettishly towards other men. But now that she's done it, she won't feel ashamed. He stretched out his hand carelessly. Show me. Siki I 1,500 yen. Nang Xiangxi's calm voice. Hey? What number is that? It's so expensive. You black-hearted Ashi. Nishiki Kishu complained, and simply ignored Nang Xiangxi. He reached out and grabbed the opponent's palm, forced the bear doll into his hand, and observed it carefully. Go sit on the bench over there and watch. Nang Xiangxi suggested something. Good. In response, Nishiki Kishu, who was carefully studying the details of the bear doll, didn't have the time to look away. She stretched out her other small white hand towards Nang Xiang. Her meaning is very simple, so simple that you can understand it just by looking at her in Nang Xiang. Hold me. Nan Xiangxi didn't say a word, he just took her hand very naturally, like a blind man leading the way, and led her with an eccentric personality to the bench and sat down. Sit down. After a while. Oh, Ashi, you're a pervert. Pulling his palm out of Nang Xiangxi's hand, Jinmu Qinshu couldn't help but glare at him with bright red eyes. Why don't you let go? Are you reluctant to let go? Yes. Nang Xiangxi nodded in reply. You guy dash. After putting the bear doll away, Jinmu Qinshu put her hands on her hips, pouted, and teased Nang Xiang. In other words, holding my hand makes you feel good, right? This was originally a joke, and she often made fun of it in her daily life. But it's pretty good. What she didn't expect was that Nang Xiangxi thought carefully before answering. Well? The unexpected straight shot made Nishiki Kishu, who had been joking just now, tilt his head back in an exaggerated manner. She, who has always been cheerful, could only reluctantly open her mouth when faced with this direct hit, and waved her hands in front of her chest in a panic. Wait a moment, Mr. Nang Xiang, don't make a mistake, Master Qianshu. I was just kidding. Yeah. Nan Xiangxi tilted his head and blinked, but I'm not kidding. There was no hint of joking in his tone. Well? You guy. Nishiki Kishu still had no resistance against the straight ball. She could only cover her blushing face and let out her final voice of dissatisfaction. If your girlfriend knew that you lied to other girls like this, you would be in big trouble. What are you saying? Nang Xiangxi looked over strangely. I don't have a girlfriend. Why? With a protracted tone, Nishiki Kishu jumped up from the bench and looked at Nang Xiangxi in front of him in disbelief. Real or fake? That's probably what she wanted to say. Real. Nang Xiangxi responded to her, then thought for a while, and then said, Otherwise, I will feel aggrieved. I can get along with you and let you be my girlfriend. Why is your attitude so natural? What else can you call I just feel aggrieved? Nishiki Kishu angrily reached out and pinched Nan Xiangshi's nose. Do you feel so wronged by being my boyfriend? Do I look like I'm missing a girlfriend? Because his nose was pinched, Nang Xiang spoke in a loud voice. This, really doesn't look like it. Nishiki Kishu blinked. Every time after an outdoor performance in Nangxiang, there would always be a group of big sisters gathering to greet them. If Nangxiang she is willing. I'm afraid I can't change several girlfriends in one day, right? Right. Nangxiang she said matter-of-factly, I have no shortage of girlfriends, and I am an excellent person. I am willing to lower my status and be your boyfriend. Isn't this just wronging myself? Yes, yes, yes. Release the fingers that pinched Nang Xiangshi's nose. Jinmu Qinsha rolled his eyes, and at the same time gave a salute. Nang Xiang-sama is willing to lower his body and marry a little girl. It is really a blessing for the little girl. So do you want to give it a try? Nang Xiangshi tentatively proposed. The intimate relationship between him and her should not be a problem even if it becomes a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship. But in Nang Xiangshi's sight, Nishiki Kishu's eyes were a little moved at first, but in the end he shook his head. Well, I'd better forget it after all. She smoothed the pleats of her skirt, tilted her head and said with a smile, I think Mr. Nangxiang is right, Qianshu-sama is not worthy of you. Is it? Sure enough, it still doesn't work. He felt a little regretful in his heart, but soon returned to normal. I think so too, so don't let you, a stupid woman, delay me. Ah! You guy actually said such a thing. Mr. Qianshu is really going to be angry. Under the sunset. When she stood up and pounced directly on Nangxiang, she got into a mess with him. Your relationship with her is still on the rise. Similarly, you can also clearly feel that Nishiki Kishu is actually quite curious about the relationship between men and women. But for some reason, every time you tentatively bring up this matter, she will always find other excuses to refuse with a cheerful face. For this kind of relationship that is just between friends, you know what you have to do. Boiling a frog in warm water and playing it slow and steady may be very good, but a more radical approach is also a good way to break the situation. You gave the bear doll to Nishiki Kishu. And she was very happy to receive this unexpected gift. At the same time, her close relationship with you has made her, who was previously very wary, completely relax her inspection of the bear doll itself. And she also said that she will always keep this bear doll in her school bag and carry it with her everywhere. The little bear stuffed with a micro-locator was put into the backpack happily and innocently, without any worries. You feel a little guilty and feel that you took advantage of her trust, but first of all, you always want to understand why she left without saying goodbye in the dream. Why does she, who seems optimistic and cheerful, not open her heart to anyone? When you get home, you turn on your phone and her location is displayed on the map. You know that place, and it's not particularly far from your rental house. This can be said to be the right time, right place, and all the right people. At the same time, you also know clearly in your heart that most of your plan has been successful. The next step is to gradually dig out the secrets hidden in her heart. This may be a long-term battle, but the last thing you lack is patience. You are lying in bed, waiting for tomorrow to come. Time will not stop flowing because of anyone's thinking. I arrived the next day as promised. But this time, you, who had always insisted on your usual morning jogging direction, took the initiative to change the direction. Following the instructions of the locator, you quickly arrived near a residential area after seemingly aimless morning jogging. And at this moment, I happened to meet the blonde-haired girl who had just ran downstairs. You encountered Nishiki Kishu by chance. Chapter 77. You start working, 4,000 words. The moment you saw her coming downstairs, Your face showed a perfect and just right look of surprise. Regarding your sudden appearance and the just-in-time chance encounter, her face showed some doubts. But even if she looks carefully, she can't detect anything from your usual expression. Coupled with your close relationship with her, she completely let down her guard and did not think in the direction of the locator at all. You didn't seem to notice the change in the expression on her face, and you still greeted her at your usual pace and tone. Your such natural expression makes her, who looked suspicious just now, feel inexplicably guilty. I am really an idiot for doubting your friend, she thought in her mind, completely letting go of her guard, and at the same time greeted you in a sunny and cheerful tone. You explained to her the fact that you run in the morning every day, and also mentioned your intention to try a longer route today. Meeting her was a complete coincidence. Nishiki Kishu, who was originally not wary of what you said, accepted it completely and believed that your appearance here might be a wonderful coincidence. What's more, she doesn't resist contact with you, and every communication with you puts her in a very good mood. The two of you walked and chatted. Taking this opportunity, you did not forget to ask the other party why he got up so early and the specific situation. She has always felt guilty for hiding these things from you, because you have been friends with her for a long time, but she has not revealed any actual information about her to you. My love simulation with them. Author, Chiudeo Udaziiwe. Chapter 65. She knew that she probably couldn't hide it anymore this time, so she finally decided to confess to you. During the simulation, various memories began to flash back in Nang Xiangshi's mind. In the end, the scene was set in a citizen's park not far from Nishiki Kishu's home. Toki should know about orphanages and other child care institutions in Japan, which are the kind of institutions that adopt orphans and are responsible for raising them up. Standing on the swing in the park, Nishiki Kishu turned her head sideways and made a lively sound while swinging forward and backward. Know something? Nangxiang nodded when he was sitting on the swing next to him, watching her figure rising and falling. Ho ho, as expected of Mr. Nangxiang, who is well informed. If you know, it will be easy to handle. The swing stopped, and then came the energetic voice of Nishiki Kishu. Takina and I were adopted by an orphanage near here and raised. When Nango heard these words, he quickly thought of the other black-haired girl who accompanied Nishiki Kishu, Inu Takina. It turned out that behind the two of them, there was actually such a fact hidden. This kind of thing is indeed not something that can be disclosed to others casually. Nishiki Kishu stretched out her fingers and placed them on her pink lips. The orphanage that raised me provided my living expenses, including my current dormitory. When she said this, she couldn't help but sigh. The usually energetic and cheerful tone immediately dropped. But how should I put it? It should be said that it is not managed well. Due to the long-term imbalance of income and expenditure, it is unable to make ends meet. In fact, until today, the orphanage's basic expenses are somewhat difficult. The translation roughly means, oops, we're almost done. Snap. Nishiki Kishu jumped down from the swing with light and cute movements, stood in front of Nan Xiangshi, clapped her white hands, and made a gesture of "Oh, it's done." Even at this time, this energetic girl still had the leisure to joke in front of Nan Xiangshi. Although I knew she was trying to liven up the atmosphere by joking. But even so, this topic is too heavy. And to be honest, what Nishiki Kishu said was very different from the plot of Licorice that Nango knew. Think about it carefully. There are no vicious terrorists in this world, there is no Tokyo that is unfortunately attacked every day, and there is no Licorice organization that makes money and gains rights by killing people. There is just an ordinary orphanage, and Chisuke Nishikiki and Takina Inu are working hard for this orphanage. In this world, they are just ordinary girls, and it is natural for them to be bound by money. Nan Xiang fell silent for a moment. The atmosphere was somewhat solemn. For some reason, Nishiki Kishu always felt her chest tightening when she saw him, who was always optimistic, fall into silence. This feeling, is this probably your first time facing a boy, right? She didn't want to see Nan Xiang's silent expression, so she thought for a while and simply made a funny woo-woo sound to liven up the atmosphere. It's over. You already know this. Come and sympathize with poor Master Qianshu. This in itself is a joke and a word to enliven the atmosphere. But I have no sympathy for you. Nang Xiangshi's voice rang out. And these words also stunned Nishiki Kishu, who was still making funny noises just now. But Nang Xiangshi seemed to ignore the meaning of her expression. Under her gaze, he spoke calmly and with clear eyes. I can't even relate to you. When he said this, he shook his head. Unauthorized sympathy and unauthorized empathy are just an insult to you who are working hard to live. I will bless you, but I will never sympathize with you, because you who are working hard to live and improve the current situation do not need the sympathy of others at all. Yes. Nishiki Kishu doesn't need sympathy from others. To sympathize with the other party without permission, to empathize with the other party without permission, is just rude to them who are working hard. Nang Xiangshi also believed that with such an optimistic and cheerful heart, she would be able to overcome the difficulties by relying on her own abilities. Nang Xiangshi's words were very calm, but every word fell deeply into Jin Muqinshu's heart. She blinked her eyes and stared blankly at the young man in front of her for a long time, speechless for a long time. Then, under his gaze, she turned back and wiped her face carelessly with her sleeves. Cried. No. Patting Nang Xiangshi's back vigorously, Nishiki Kishu, whose eyes were red, puffed up her cheeks angrily. It's really, you always say things that make me feel embarrassed. She complained, but the dissatisfaction in her voice was undetectable. Nang Xiangshi and she fell into silence again. But this time, the silence did not last long. She suddenly raised her head and muttered in a low voice, somewhat awkwardly. But what should I say? Thank you for saying this to me. What? I didn't hear it. Nang Xiangshi turned his head and pretended not to hear. You guy. You've obviously heard it. Nishiki Kishu made a dissatisfied sound. I really didn't hear it. Forget it. Anyway, I won't say it again if I'm so embarrassed. Huh? Say it again, I will definitely listen carefully this time. The voice of complaint in Nang Xiang. It's stupid, so I won't say it again. This time, she prolonged her tone, put her hands on her hips, and showed her usual beaming expression when facing Nang Xiang again. She stretched out her white fingers and made a cute face at him. He looked a little unwilling. The corners of her mouth curled up slightly and her head tilted. Laughed. She is as beautiful as a flower in the morning. You clearly realized this, but at the same time, you did not forget to ask the other party if they had taken any measures to improve the economic situation of the orphanage. In this regard, she seemed very confident and said that the dean had already opened a coffee shop called Like. In addition to coffee, they usually provide some desserts, dishes, and other things. They want to rely on the income from the Lico coffee shop to stabilize the financial situation of the orphanage. Relying on the coffee shop to support the financial status of the orphanage. When Nang Xiangshi saw this passage in reality, he felt deeply unreliable. A small restaurant wants to support an orphanage. How hot does the business have to be? It is a relatively niche hand-brewed coffee shop, can it be so popular? The text in the subsequent simulation was just as Nang Xiang had imagined. When you asked her about the income and expenditure of the cafe, she suddenly became crestfallen. It turns out that although the Like coffee shop opened successfully, its business situation was not particularly optimistic due to its geographical location and other factors. Of course, the most important thing is that there is no capable kitchen chef in the back kitchen of Lico. Although Like is mainly engaged in coffee and dessert business, due to the need to subsidize and improve the economic situation of the orphanage, it is also engaged in catering business such as cooking. However, the cooking skills of both Nishiki Chisuk and Inu Takina are only at the level of being able to make a few decent home-cooked dishes. They are just starting out in coffee shops. They mainly serve as waiters, and it is impossible to be qualified as a chef position. There is no qualified chef who can take the lead, which makes the business of like, which was originally in an average position, only rely on a few regular customers to play games in the store from time to time to support it. In this situation, let alone subsidizing the orphanage, it is even possible to lose money. But now, due to their financial situation, they no longer have any extra money to hire a new qualified chef these days. She and Inu Takina are actually running around on this issue. The results can be imagined. You listened to her troubles quietly, and after thinking about it, you said that maybe you could try the job of chef. But regarding your self-recommendation, Nishiki Kishu, who has always been optimistic, is obviously a little unsure. It's not that easy to find a restaurant chef. It doesn't mean that you can do it just by being able to cook a few home-cooked dishes. She tried to persuade you a little bit, but in the end she still couldn't win over you, who was resolute. She finally agreed to give you a try at the Lico Rico Cafe. Finally a new scene is open. Nan Xiang felt the memories floating in his mind and breathed a sigh of relief. In the past, the only place where he could interact with Nishiki Kishu was at Shimokitazawa Square. There is only one place for contact, and the resulting encounter is naturally very single. And now, there is finally a new place where you can get up close and personal with Nishiki Kishu, and you will surely have a better encounter here. As for being a chef, to be honest, Nang Xiangxi was not particularly worried about this. Although he is his version of himself in the simulation, he also possesses the LV4 cooking skill. Just working as a chef in a cafe, not that difficult at all. Everything seemed so smooth on the surface. But, although a new map has been opened, the reason why Kishu Nishiki left last week without saying goodbye is still not clear. There was doubt in Nang Xiangxi's eyes. Yes. Everything was going for the better, but the doubts that troubled him were not resolved. He could only continue to look down. Under the leadership of Nishiki Kishu, you quickly arrived at the Rico Rico coffee shop. Here, you also met several other people except Inu Takina, who you already knew. You met the store manager Mika, Nakahara Mizuki, and Walnut. The black-haired Takina Inu was obviously a little surprised by your arrival. She looked at Nishiki Kishu in disbelief, as if asking what she was doing, but this look was eventually dismissed by Nishiki Kishu sticking out her tongue. It's past. As for your arrival, the other people are a little confused. After Nishiki Kishu's introduction, their initial confusion turned into surprise. Your appearance is too young, so they can't believe that you have the ability to be a chef in a cafe. In response to their doubts, you didn't give any more explanation. You just washed your palms carefully, walked to the bar, opened the refrigerator, and picked out the ingredients. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My love simulation with them. Author, Chiudeo Udaziiwe. Chapter 66. Start cooking. You have made a well-made and perfectly cooked Spanish seafood risotto with a rating of 4.3. Half an hour later, the pan containing the seafood risotto you cooked was licked clean. Your outstanding abilities have been recognized by all the members of Lico Rico. But before officially becoming the master chef, the store manager Mika also had a serious conversation with you. He told you seriously that the salary here is not as generous as you thought. With such skills, you should be able to use your talents in better restaurants. In this regard, you didn't say much, but took a deep look at Nishiki Kishu, who was proudly showing off your presence to other Rico Rico employees. Nishiki Kishu seemed to have noticed something. She felt your gaze. Her fair face, which had always been outgoing, became rosy for the first time. As if he understood something from the eyes of the two of you, Manager Mika interrupted the conversation and said nothing more. You have officially started working in Rico Rico as the chef. Chapter 78. She suspects you added something to the food, 4,000 words. You started working at Rico Rico as the chef. Your requirements for all dishes are extremely strict. Because you know the importance of Rico Rico to Nishiki Kishu. But as mentioned before, the business situation of Rico Rico is not optimistic. Usually only a few regular customers are willing to visit, and in addition to the money provided for the operation of Rico Rico Cafe, the orphanage's the income and expenditure situation also needs to be improved immediately by relying on Rico Rico. Faced with economic difficulties and limited conditions, the originally relatively cheap civilian price marketing strategy seems a bit weak, but if the food is priced too high, it may scare away the few remaining regular customers. Nishiki Kishu found you and also talked about this topic. She has always been outgoing and didn't notice that she was already relying on you subconsciously. This is a far-reaching option. You have a lot of thoughts in your mind, but you finally decide. 1. There is no big problem with the civilian marketing price of Lickless. Retaining the existing customer base is the top priority, and according to your skills, you can sell more at a small profit. It is not difficult to attract customers. 2. You decide to make a compromise. First, maintain the current civilian route of like, and then increase the price after the business is booming. 3. You are very confident. You feel that based on your skills, even if the price is high, there will definitely be scammers willing to pay. You believe that gold can shine everywhere, and you are the well-deserved piece of gold. 4. Simulate in person. The option popped up again, attracting Nang Xiangshi's attention. This is indeed a far-reaching option. Looking at the simulated reminder, Nang Xiangshi stood up from the bed. The options in this column, from 1 to 3, all determine the fate of the Rico Rico Cafe. If you make the wrong choice in Nangxiang, presumably this cafe, which carries all the hopes of Nishiki Kishu and Inu Takina, will disappear on the spot. This made Nang Xiangshi also have to think seriously. The first option is to maintain the current price and preserve the customer base. But to be honest, it is not difficult to see from the previous simulation description that the business situation of like has not been very good. Even if we continue to maintain the status quo and maintain affordable prices, we will only be able to retain a few regular customers. Give up the opportunity to increase prices to retain the few customers. To Nang Xiangshi, this was putting the cart before the horse. And it can also be seen from the simulation description that what like needs is money, a lot of money. The strategy of small profits but quick turnover, to be honest, does not apply to the current like. So, what about the second option? Nang Xiang lowered his gaze. 2. You decide to make a compromise. First, maintain the current civilian route of like, and then increase the price after the business is booming. The second option looks good, attract customers first, and then increase the price. But in Nang Xiang's opinion, this option was somewhat unreasonable. Because this second option describes everything too ideally. The most taboo thing in the catering industry is price increases without any reason. Once customers accept a low price that is affordable to the public, raising the price later without any reason will only make them feel cheated, and it will be difficult to accept it. Nang Xiangshi flicked his fingers and his eyes came to the third option. 3. You are very confident. You feel that based on your skills, even if the price is high, there will definitely be scammers willing to pay. You believe that gold can shine everywhere, and you are the well-deserved piece of gold. Confidence. Extreme confidence. Yes, from this line of description, Nang Xiangshi could only feel extreme self-confidence. There is no need to lower the price, just raise the price of the food. Everyone is just a fat sheep in front of their own food. The content of this option is extremely radical from any perspective. There is a feeling of if you don't succeed, you will succeed. But just looking at this option, Nang Xiangshi fell into thinking. The reason is very simple. Like is short of money. Very short of money. The high pricing will indeed deter many people. But once it becomes famous, the money-making efficiency of lookalike will far exceed that of the first and second options. Then the problem arises again. After the high price, can the cooking skills be worthy of the high price? Nang Xiangxi just thought about it for a moment and felt that he had thought too much. The cooking skills that LV4 specializes in are at the top level of the profession. His craftsmanship is certainly worth the high price. And there is always no shortage of curious people in this world. It's like the many videos of store visits or food related to Station B that Nang Xiang saw in his previous life. It can easily cost tens of thousands of yuan for high-end ingredients, and it can easily cost tens of thousands of yuan in restaurant expenses. High-priced food is a gimmick in itself. Compared with the first two mediocre options, the third option, the most radical option, seems to be better. And if you want to pursue a girl like Nishiki Chisuk, it seems that if you don't take some radical measures, you will be ruined directly. Nang Xiangxi thought of Zhou Mu's safe choice of boiling the frog in warm water. Boiling a frog in warm water works really well. But, the result? He never saw Nishiki Kishu again. On the contrary, this week's selection of the most radical tail row option resulted in more contact with the opponent. I felt that when I was in Nangxiang. Maybe sometimes you have to take risks to get to the end. Thinking of this, the hesitation in his heart disappeared and he chose the third option. As the chef, you are well aware of the poor financial situation of the orphanage. Rico's dismal operating situation cannot be improved by relying on small profits but quick turnover or compromise solutions. If you want to change the current predicament, you can only solve all problems by having an extremely radical idea of destroying everything and then rebuilding it. At the same time, your unfounded narcissism also plays a key role. You feel that there will always be people willing to pay for the food you cook. You decide to increase the prices of all dishes. Your overly radical plan makes all the members of Like feel incredible and even oppose it. When no one else believes in you, only Nishiki Kishu believes in you unconditionally as always. She has given all her trust to you. She is even more confident and optimistic than you. She thinks that you can definitely improve the current operating situation of Like. You are deeply moved by the girl's liveliness and unreserved trust. You don't say much, you just want to respond to her trust. After you repeatedly observed the specific situation of today's catering industry and the pricing of dishes featured in today's high-end restaurants, you launched a new set meal and a new price. You have launched the simple version of the premium set meal, 10,000 yen per serving, the exclusive version of the luxurious imperial set meal, 30,000 yen per serving, and the super luxurious set meal exclusive version, 50,000 yen per serving. At the same time, the prices of all dishes in the Rico Cafe have increased by one level. Packs are hotly launched. But as other members of Rico imagined, the sudden high price will only dissuade customers. The sales volume of Like, which was not optimistic to begin with, is now even more unsightly. In the face of this situation, you have no intention of giving up. You just stay calm and actively prepare the dishes while quietly waiting for the opportunity to come. During these difficult days, Jinmu Kinzu will always be by your side. When you are thinking, she will always smile and hand you a cup of coffee with both hands. When you have nothing to say, she will always take the initiative to find some topics. Gradually, she seemed to realize something. Her tenderness towards you seems to have gone beyond the scope of friends. After realizing this, it becomes more and more difficult for her to take her eyes away from you. Occasionally at work, she will hold her face up and look at you in a daze from time to time. It is not until the store manager reminds her that she feels a little embarrassed he reacted with a red face. You have not ignored her concern for you, but the most important thing now is the business issue of Lickless, so you can only put down your surging thoughts for the time being. And the day when the opportunity comes is not as long as everyone imagines. Finally, one day, the fragrance coming from the Lickless entangled and detained a hungry guest. When he saw the excessively high prices for the food in Rico, this customer's first reaction was to turn around and leave. But in the end, he was tempted to leave by the aroma coming from the kitchen. He was still unwilling to leave just now with the mood of forgetting about being ripped off. He simply ordered a set meal and then started to wait. The hard-won customers cheer you up, and the dishes you have been actively preparing are finally put to use. You have created a set meal with a rating of 4.8. Serve the food and wait. Even Nishiki Kishu couldn't help but feel nervous at this time. But, no customer can resist the delicious food with a rating of 4.8. Your cooking was highly praised by the other party in the end. The other party even left an extra 10,000 yen as a tip. He told you that your cooking made him feel the purest happiness that he had not felt in a long time. What an amazing dish! After saying these words, the guest turned and left. He has gradually become a regular customer of Lickless, and even often brings his friends here to spend money. The originally deserted Rico Rico began to gain popularity. Gradually, in addition to the regulars who are attracted by your cuisine, there are also some curious eyes looking at your new restaurant. The high price you set did scare off many people, but just as you thought, the high price itself is a gimmick. Although most people are daunted by the price you set, there are still a small number of people who are curious and not short of money and are willing to spend money to try it. My love simulation with them. Author, Chiudeo Udazi. Chapter 67. And just a simple attempt was the beginning of the entire fall. Your cuisine is unforgettable for anyone who has tasted it even once. On the one hand, they scold you in their hearts for setting such high prices and being so evil, but on the other hand, they willingly take their money out of their pockets to pay for it. Like has gradually become famous in the surrounding area, and business has become booming. This sudden change shocked the employees of Like who had no confidence before. They who are too young obviously can't imagine that there are so many people who are willing to pay the price you set with such a black heart. The idea that Chef Nango might be a culinary devil began to spread among several employees at Rico Rico. At the same time, the booming business has made them work hard, and the rising turnover has made them more motivated. When the turnover is settled at the end of the month, everyone except you will be shocked by the amount in front of you. This month sales of Like have increased 10 times that of previous months. Taking into account the necessary expenses for operating the orphanage and the daily operation of Like, the amount of money is even quite considerable. What makes them even more frightened is that even if they have set up outdoor tables in the courtyard, they cannot resist the surging enthusiasm of the guests. Sometimes when it rains, some customers are even willing to hold an umbrella outside and wait for a seat to become available in Rico Rico. And the plates recovered from the guest tables are always clean, with almost no leftovers. Such a symptom similar to drug addiction makes Nishiki Kishu unable to help but come to you and quietly ask you if you have added anything else to the food. You have nothing to say to her who has always been quirky and has unconstrained ideas. You tell her that you simply cooked the food and the guests liked it. As for adding things to the dishes, that's just adding some seasonings, other things are just nonsense. Under your comfort, Jinmyo felt relieved. At the same time, every night, she will make time to massage your shoulders and waist after working too long. Every time she sees you twisting your neck and shoulders uncomfortably because of working for too long, there is only tenderness and distress in her eyes. The terrifying customer flow, high profits, and high rate of return have made Rico Rico gradually become the focus of Tokyo's food circle. More and more people want to come to Lickless to taste delicious food. But the condescending occupancy rate made it impossible for them to start. In order to taste the happy cuisine, people began to line up outside Rico Rico in the early hours of the morning. Feeling the memory of the long queue in front of the Rico Rico in the simulation, even Nang Xiangxi was a little surprised. Start queuing up early in the morning? Just for a bite to eat? Why are all the people in Tokyo so idle? Chapter 79. Kiss. 4,000 words. Are all the people in Tokyo sitting around with nothing to do? This idea came to Nang Xiangxi's mind, but was quickly rejected. He felt that he might have underestimated the value of LV4's culinary expertise. LV4 is considered the pinnacle of professionalism in the system, and the food he cooks can make people feel happy. Only with the blessing of the two phases can such a powerful effect be achieved. Thinking of this, Nan Xiangxi stopped dwelling on this issue. After all, according to the current development, there is a high probability that my choice is not wrong. The operational difficulties of Lickless have been resolved, and the orphanage has regained funding. It can be said to be the best of both worlds. The problems that have been plaguing Nishiki Kishu and her partner Inu Takina have all been solved. After solving this problem, Nan Xiangxi had to cheer up for the next problem. Why did Nishiki Kishu leave without saying goodbye, and the reason why she is not willing to be my girlfriend now? Nan Xiangxi reached out and tapped his head, reorienting his perspective. Last week, he was concerned about Nishiki Kishu breaking the contract and leaving without saying goodbye. Similarly, the fact that Zhuma Nishiki Kishu has not agreed to his confession also caught Nan Xiangxi's attention. According to his own observation, the relationship between Nishiki Kishu and himself this week has completely surpassed the relationship between ordinary friends. She would massage herself when she was tired, and secretly put a cup of coffee on her desk when she stayed up late. When he noticed her little moves, he would huddle behind the door and giggle. There were times when she would sit on his lap like she was asserting her sovereignty over other women. She makes no secret of her love for herself. But every time in her simulated memory, when she mentioned her boyfriend and girlfriend, she would always hesitate for a while, and then find a topic to talk about with a hearty smile. After 2 weeks of simulation, Nan Xiangxi knew it clearly. Nishiki Chisuke is the kind of person who just likes someone. She will never care about anyone's eyes, she is cheerful and confident, and she will always spend every day happily. Would such a person deliberately hide his emotions? Nan Xiang focused all his attention on the simulation. The following simulation may be able to reveal all these hidden mysteries. While you were taking care of the Rico business, you also did not forget to send out various confession tests to Nishiki Kishu. But what disappoints you is that in the face of your temptation, she will always hesitate a little and eventually find a reason to get over it. Your relationship is just like in the previous dream, full of regrets, stagnating above the level of friends. If we continue like this, we may make the same mistake again as in the regretful dream. The business of Likalike has gradually stabilized, and it can earn a considerable amount of income every day as long as you are in charge. The revenue of the orphanage and Likalike will definitely not be a problem. Your handsome appearance and outstanding cooking skills beyond your age have also attracted the attention of many women. There is no shortage of women with small assets in Tokyo. Although the price of Rico's food is high, it is not difficult for them to accept. In order to have a close relationship, these wealthy women often come in early and queue up after entering the store. They order food and watch you busy while sitting down. Sometimes, they can even sit for a whole day. Although you choose to ignore their frequent flirtations, there are still a few courageous women who come to you during business hours and make hints to you overtly or covertly. Their hints are frequent and full of temptations. An ordinary young person would probably have agreed long ago, but you are different from ordinary young people in Tokyo. You have always had goals you want to pursue. But right now, you should probably take some decisions. 1. Compared to a little girl like Nishiki Chisuke who hides her attitude, a mature older sister who doesn't let me continue my efforts is better. I should decisively change the target. 2. Stick to your heart, reject them all, and have thousands of bundles of brocade and wood in your warehouse, without wavering at all. 3. Maybe you should change your thinking and accept some ambiguity to observe her reaction. 4. Simulate in person. Options pop up. This time Nan Xiang did not hesitate much. Although he does like mature older sisters, this does not change the fact that death is an option. As for the second option, Nishiki Kishu actually liked him enough, but she kept avoiding him for some reason. Therefore, Even if he chooses to stick to his true intentions here without wavering, the process will probably remain the same as before, and there will not be much change. Then there are three options. Maybe you should change your thinking and accept a little ambiguity to observe her reaction. Although Nang Xiang felt that this way of deliberately testing other people's feelings was very bad. But we can no longer hesitate here. If you continue to hesitate and hesitate, there is a high probability that the final outcome will still lead to regret. He had to figure out the reason why Nishiki Kishu escaped. Nang Xiangxi raised his hand and directly selected the three options. The simulation continues below. These big sisters who are too entangled with you are actually just trying to have fun and are not really emotionally involved. With keen observation, you quickly noticed this and decided to use them in turn to test Nishiki Kishu's reaction. You still take your work as Like seriously. But every time she comes up with a smile, wanting to give you some surprises, or preparing some jokes to share with you, you have always been willing to listen to her words, but for the first time you smiled and waved your hand to refuse. At the same time, the time you spend at the Lico Rico Cafe after get off work is also reduced. You basically leave right after get off work, which makes her eager to find you in vain. You must know that this is completely different from usual. Obviously every time you get off work, you will set aside part of the time to stay in Like to chat with her and spend some time together before leaving. But lately you always leave me without saying goodbye. Standing in the Lico Rico Cafe, she no longer had the same cheerful enthusiasm as before, and she began to feel panic from the bottom of her heart. She senses that she has been neglected by you and feels that what she has always cherished is about to be taken away. When she thought that something like that might happen, her breathing began to become erratic. After that, she has been looking for an opportunity to communicate with you alone. But the busyness at work and your deliberate ignorance always make her confused and at a loss. Finally, one day, when you were off work, she made a decision after repeated efforts to no avail. She wanted to follow you. Are you doing this too? In the memory of his mind, there was a scene of a sneaky blonde-haired girl stalking him, which made Nang Xiang feel speechless. Should I say that she is worthy of being a woman that I admire? Nishiki Kishu's sudden thoughts were exactly the same as his. Nang Xiang was speechless and choked, and continued to look down. The girl's talent for tailgating is obviously better than yours. She doesn't need to study systematically at all, she can easily blend into the crowd and quietly keep up with you in an extremely harmless manner. While walking, she discovered that you were actually chatting with a very mature-looking white-collar lady after get off work. And judging from your appearance, this communication process seems to be very enjoyable, and the woman even gave you a gift. Is it possible that you actually prefer older sisters? At this moment, she couldn't help but think wildly. She watched you leave after finishing the exchange with the white-collar elder sister, and she followed you without hesitation. However, when you reached an uninhabited alley, you suddenly stopped, turned around, and picked her out casually. This sudden development made her feel incredible and her mind was filled with questions. She has obviously been hidden so perfectly, but you still found it easily. She can't understand what method you used. She doesn't know that in order to create a chance encounter with her, you don't know how many times you have practiced this level of stalking skills. She is just trying to master the class. At this time, it was already 7:30 in the evening. She who is caught by you is more like a little white rabbit trapped in a trap. When Nang Xiang, his entire consciousness sank into the simulation. During the simulation, the originally vague memories became clear with the light of the street lights in the deserted alley. Under the light, the blonde-haired girl looked at Nang Xiang in panic. Why do you know? My love simulation with them. Author, Chiu Dao Yu de Zi Wei. Chapter 68. Her voice was filled with annoyance and disbelief. She had obviously hidden it so perfectly. But the Nang Xiangxi in front of him seemed to have no intention of answering his question. He just gave himself a normal look and asked the question. Why are you following me? This. Her eyes rolled strangely, and just when she was about to say, "I don't know where you live yet," she was ruthlessly exposed by the other party. "I told you the specific location of my home online before, don't think about it. Fool me. That's why I accidentally ended up here while running at night. This place is more than 20 kilometers away from the Like Cafe." Jinmyukinsha said haha twice and wanted to find some excuses. Then, "Qianshu, I don't care about why you are following me. But before that, I hope you can also consider the time." Nang Xiangshi's words of initiative interrupted Nishiki Kishu, who was trying to find an excuse to deal with it. "Haven't you ever thought about it? It's already so late, and it's very dangerous for such a cute girl like you to still be wandering outside." "Hey, I'm sorry, he, am I so cute in Ashi's eyes?" Nang Xiangshi was speechless when he looked at the blonde girl with an expression on her face that said, "Please compliment me on my cuteness again," even though she was afraid of being scolded by him. "Are you really reflecting on it?" he asked directly. "Yeah. I'm reflecting on it now. I will try my best to make myself less cute in the future." Nishiki Kishu clenched her fists vigorously and answered Nang Xiang's question seriously. This woman. Nang Xiangshi felt helpless. He shook his head. "So, why are you looking for me?" "This. Don't make excuses, unless you want me to ignore you for the next month." Before Nishiki Kishu could find an excuse to deal with it, Nang Xiangshi suddenly spoke. "Hey. Why are you doing this to me? Isn't it too cruel to not be able to talk to Ashi for a month?" Shocked by this unexpectedly cruel condition, Nishiki Kishu widened her cute eyes and opened her mouth stupidly. Then, although she was a little hesitant, she still told her the reason for the last trip. "Just because I ignored you at work, you cared so much that you chose to follow me." Usually outgoing and quirky, she said and then she couldn't help but glance at the person she cared about, and when she found Nang Xiang, she had a speechless expression on her face. She puffed up her cheeks in dissatisfaction and whispered. "Whose name is Ashi? He's been ignoring me recently, and he won't reply to you when I talk to you, and he won't chat with me online anymore. Really, the world that can't chat with Ashi might as well be destroyed. And I also found a good-looking older sister outside." She said the last words in a very quiet voice. But even so, Nang Xiangshi, who has excellent hearing, still heard it. "What did you say?" "Nothing." "Humph." Nishiki Kishu tilted her head. "Are you still angry?" Nang Xiangshi stretched out his hand in an angry and funny manner, pinched her face, straightened her face, and then pressed his forehead against hers, looking at the panicked her, "Who keeps looking for excuses to reject me? I just..." When talking about this topic that she didn't understand at all, Nishiki Kishu immediately felt panicked. She blushed and opened her pink lips. This sudden panic expression is so cute. Nang Xiangshi kissed her without hesitation. The long ending sound showed the girl's shock. After a long time, "Let go. Ashi, you guy." Covering her pink lips with her hands, Jinmyukinshu was a little angry. "How dare you do this, you? If you don't want to, you can obviously push me away." That's not what I meant." She was always cheerful and lively, but her voice became a little flustered. "In other words, you are willing." Holding her hand, Nang Xiangshi asked back. Say now you are willing. Then it's so difficult." She used to be cheerful and lively, but now her voice was weak. Just when he looked at Nang Xiang with his clean and clear eyes. All the hesitations before have softened at this moment. But if that's all, isn't it the same as being soft? Thinking of this, I don't know where the courage came from. She actually took the initiative to wrap her arms around Nang Xiangshi's neck, then stood on tiptoes and kissed him heavily. This time, it was Nang Xiangshi's somewhat surprised ending. You have become the first person she is willing to take the initiative to love. Chapter 80. Her flowers are about to wither, 4,000 words. You have become the first person she is willing to take the initiative to love. This time she hugs you tightly. After this incident, she finally understood her true intentions. Escape itself has no effect. The extrovert has decided not to escape or be perfunctory. You and Nishiki Kishu have become lovers. And on the night when we first became lovers, she was far more proactive than others, and even asked you to stay at your house. Although you can't ask for such a good thing, you are still a little surprised and feel that the progress is a bit too fast. But in the end he couldn't resist her insistence and agreed to her request. You are not the ordinary male protagonist in Japanese light novels or comics who only treats others gently and is good for nothing, and you are in the period of passionate love, so what happens next is a matter of course. That night, you and she tossed around until very late before falling asleep. Memories of scenes began to appear in my mind. Nang Xiangxi woke up early the next morning. He opened his eyes, his gaze quickly softening. What he looked at was the fair and smooth back of the girl lying on her side. Smooth back, fair and tender skin. Nishiki Kishu is not a particularly thin girl. On the contrary, her body is more fleshy than that of ordinary women of the same age. He lowered his head and couldn't help but kiss her, causing her to scream in surprise as she was still asleep. "Don't make trouble." Turning his body back, Nishiki Kishu woke up from his dazed state, patted the head of the boyfriend in front of him, and complained softly, "It's so early in the morning, it's all your fault last night, I didn't even sleep well. You had to work so late last night." Nang Xiangxi pointed out the language flaw in the other party's words without hesitation, and joked with a smile, "I didn't expect Miss Jinmu to be unexpectedly unsatisfied with her desires. No matter, I'm still a little sleepy, let me sleep a little longer." Nishiki Kishu ignored her boyfriend's teasing, rubbed her eyes, reached out and hugged Nang Xiangxi's waist naturally, buried her head in his neck, and fell asleep lightly again. Nang Xiang didn't move at all, and did everything a good pillow should do. After being bored like this for about half an hour, Miss Nishikiki finally woke up. But her awakening was a very strange awakening, a superposition of waking up and not waking up. He had obviously lifted himself up from the bed, but his mouth was unable to open, and his eyelids were opening and closing, as if he was fighting against some unknown existence. Nang Xiang didn't care about her. "I opened the window to get some air, then simply went to the bathroom to wash myself off, and then started preparing breakfast." And while he was preparing breakfast, as if being attracted by the fragrance, Miss Jinmu, who was already fully awake, suddenly said hey from behind and hugged his waist. Her fair and lovely nose was twitching while her face was full of curiosity. "Ah she, what are you having for breakfast today? Eat whatever you want. I made some bouillabaisse and bread and bacon." Nang Xiang, who was busy with his work, spoke without looking back. "Good." Responding obediently, Nishiki Kishu spread the tablecloth on the short round table, then placed her hands and sat obediently on the table. From time to time, she raised her little head to look in the direction of Nang Xiang, waiting. "My boyfriend still cooks so quickly. This seems to be the case even at home. Still unrivaled in deliciousness." Even Nishiki Kishu was a little curious about how the other party could possess such cooking skills beyond his age even though he was so young. But she didn't ask in the end. Because compared to this, she had one more important thing to tell Nang Xiangxi. Yes, something that I had to tell Nang Xiang. Recalling everything that happened with Nang Xiang yesterday, she raised her head. "Ashi." Nang Xiang turned his head while washing dishes. "There's something I want to talk to you about." You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My love simulation with them. Author, Chiu Dao Yu De Zi Wei. Chapter 69. Good. As if sensing a different atmosphere from the usual joking, Nang Xiangxi put down his bowls and chopsticks and sat in front of Nishiki Kishu. She was at the dinner table without her usual lively energy. She just tried to use a calm tone as much as possible, and told Nang Xiang the fact that he couldn't even accept. It turned out that she had been suffering from congenital heart disease. Nishiki Kishu's words caused your brain to shut down for a moment. But you soon understood everything. No wonder every time she talks about the future and dreams, she always shows a relieved and optimistic smile as she is outgoing and energetic. No wonder every time you express your love to her, she will eventually brush it off with a joke. She tells you that she has never wanted to treat your love with contempt, she just doesn't want to be a burden that slows down your pace. When she said this, she, who had always been outgoing and optimistic, also collapsed emotionally. She has actually been psychologically prepared for life and death that have been decided long ago, but only when facing you, the guilt and regret in her heart cannot be hidden at all. Tears welled up from her eyes after knowing everything. You just hugged her quietly and gently kissed away the tears from the corners of her eyes. You didn't mean to blame her. She has given everything from her heart to you, how can you be willing to blame such a girl who needs your love and care? You didn't comfort her, she just held you and sobbed softly. It's two hearts that resonate, no need for words. She told you that she was diagnosed with congenital heart disease when she was a child, and she was able to live to the age of 17 now. In addition to her good health care, she is always optimistic. But there is a limit to what external factors can do. As early as a week ago, the doctor had warned that her congenital heart disease was very serious and she only had 1 month left. Similarly, she also told you that in recent times, she can clearly feel that her body is getting weaker. The reluctance to leave you has deepened her already indifferent fear of death. She can feel sorry. And in the face of her words, all you can do is comfort. So that's it? After coming back from the simulation, Nan Xiangxi shook his head. He had expected it before. The last times Nishiki Kishu made an appointment with him was not a deliberate breach of the agreement, but that she simply couldn't come. But even if he had expected it, when he actually faced this result, Nang Xiangxi could only shake his head and sigh. By now, he had an impression of the somewhat vague plot of Licorice. It seems that in the original work of Licorice, Nishiki Kishu had a heart problem. It seemed that through some kind of surgery, he was replaced with a black tech mechanical heart in order to continue to maintain his life. But as mentioned before, there are no science fiction or miscellaneous institutions in this world. Nang Xiangxi leaned on the back of the bed and made a sound. Yes. In this world, there are no terrorist attacks like in Licorice, and there is no so-called black tech mechanical heart. All that was left was that Nishiki Kishu was still in poor physical condition. Although it was just a simulation, Nang Xiangxi, who felt the same emotions in the simulated memory, also sighed deeply. Fate has given this girl such heavy pressure. But she is still cheerful, like an optimistic elf. She hid it so well that she was only aware of it in the simulation. At this point, Nang Xiangxi could only continue to observe the progress of the simulation and wait for things to turn around. You have learned about Nishiki Kishu's physical condition. But she does not want her increasingly bad physical condition to affect other friends of Riko, especially Inu Takina, who has the best relationship with her and is a sister. If Inu Takina were to learn about her current physical condition, she would not be able to imagine what drastic actions the always serious black-haired girl would do. Therefore, she hopes you can keep the secret for her. This is the first request she has made to you, and you really can't bear to refuse. You agreed to her request. Time continues to move forward in order to maintain the operation of Riko. You continue to serve as the chef. You also persuaded her to temporarily give up her job as a waiter at Riko to recuperate her body. In this regard, she would always smile and say that in the last part of her life, She at least wanted to stand in the sunshine instead of lying on the bed, quietly waiting for her body to decay. She continues to work. In front of Riko's partners, especially in front of Inu Takina, Nishikiki Chisuke has always tried hard to maintain her original optimistic and positive appearance. You will see this in your eyes, and will take advantage of your position to increase her rest time. She did not refuse your special favoritism. She would always act like a spoiled child and smile against you occasionally. She would kiss you while you were working while no one was paying attention. Her smile is still so beautiful, and she is still so warm to people. However, within this month you can clearly feel that her life is dying extremely quickly and irreversibly. Although she still tried her best to pretend to be the same as usual. But the strangeness of the body may not be so easily concealed. In Like-like's work, she frequently made mistakes, often breaking plates and misremembering bills. She takes longer to sleep, and the alarm clock seems to have lost its meaning. Sometimes you even need to walk to her to wake her up from her deep sleep. But you never did that. When she is asleep, you will always sit in front of her bed, watching her quietly, waiting for her to wake up. You don't want her to sleep for so long, but you want her to rest long enough. The time she spent in a daze became obviously longer, and sometimes Inu Takina even had to call her several times before she would react and turn around to show an energetic smile. But despite this, she still tried hard to pretend as if nothing had happened. But all this pretense was finally broken on the day she suddenly collapsed. Her life has entered the countdown without any precautions. Riko, everyone knows about Nishikikishi's congenital heart disease, but this unexpected change happened to her without any warning, unacceptable to everyone. In the face of everyone's shock, knowing that the matter could no longer be concealed, you finally revealed everything about Nishikikishi's deteriorating physical condition. Inu Takina was very unwilling to hide your secret. She wanted to condemn you, but the words of condemnation only came to her lips, and eventually turned into a low cry. Everyone understands that there is no point in blaming you at this time. In this regard, you apologized quietly for hiding everything. The atheistic store manager Mika went to the shrine for the first time. Uedeo and Nakahara Mizuki, who had never believed random information on the internet, spent all night investigating folk remedies and possibilities for treating congenital heart disease. Inu Takina and you waited outside the ward all night. Besides, there is nothing you can do. When the tense operation was over, the doctor let you all know the result with a slightly regretful expression. The doctor tells you that she only has 7 days left to live with her fragile body. It is actually a miracle that she can persist for so long. Unwilling, Inu Takina still hopes that the doctors will continue to try. But in the end all I got was a regretful apology. You temporarily put Like out of business and take care of her wholeheartedly. She was on the hospital bed, her body was already looking thin, and her originally fair and pink face had become bloodless and very haggard, but perhaps the only thing that remained unchanged was her sunny and happy smile. She is even joking with you in the hospital bed. I order you. She. Learn medical skills immediately. Cure me. She was bossy and energetic on the hospital bed. Even the old man on the other side was made to smile by her. Every time you hear her jokes, you just smile lightly and greet her to eat. The days of taking care of her are actually a kind of torture for you. You have no choice but to watch her become thinner and thinner day by day, and her breathing becomes more and more rapid day by day. On the first day, she still had the strength to talk, communicate, and eat with you. But in the following days, she could no longer even eat, although she desperately forced herself to eat, hoping to rely on this method to restore her body to health. But later, her fragile body could no longer complete the task of eating, and she would vomit everything she ate. Every time this happens, she, lying on the bed with an IV tube inserted, can only look at you apologetically. Her flowers are about to wither. Chapter 81. You started living together, 4,000 words. Soon, a week passed. But she did not die this week as the doctor expected. Instead, she struggled to survive. Even the doctors at the hospital were surprised. They thought this was simply a miracle of life. Her strong desire to survive makes you reluctant to look back. Because you understand that even if you continue like this, you are just torturing this cheerful and enthusiastic girl. Gradually, she became completely unable to eat and became less energetic than she had been at the beginning. The doctor inserted a urinary catheter into her, who was unable to move, and the back of her hand, which was originally fair and lovely, was also inserted into an infusion tube. You remember clearly that she said before that she was afraid of injections and the feeling of foreign objects entering her body. Every time it's time to change the needle, you will always turn your face to the other side when listening to her weak cry of pain, shouting "Ashi." You feel like your heart is about to break, but at this time, you have to hold on. Takina Inu cannot come to the hospital because every time she comes to the ward, she faints from grief and is extremely heartbroken. Only if you persist and watch day after day. Gradually, she could no longer speak in the hospital bed, and her breathing became longer and longer day by day. It took a long time to inhale, but a short time to spit it out, but she was still actively trying to survive. She fulfilled the words she once said to you: even if she ends up lying on the hospital bed and rotting, she will still struggle recklessly. Even the doctors who came to the ward to check on her every day were moved by her tenacious will to survive and refused to give up. The nurses in the hospital would secretly wipe away tears every day when changing her needles. They all know that today's treatments are actually useless and can only prolong life in vain. For anyone, this is actually no longer treatment, but pure torture. The doctor came to you specifically for this purpose and asked if you would be willing to remove Jin Mukingsu's oxygen tube and infusion tube to end her pain. In this regard, you did not answer, but came to the hospital bed and asked in Jin Mukingsu's ear. At this time, she no longer has the strength to shake her head or nod. She just tries hard to open her eyelids and looks at you with her dim red eyes. You read the meaning in her eyes and tried your best to keep your voice calm and let the doctor continue treatment. The enthusiastic and cheerful woman never gave up until the last moment of her life. As she always said, life is the most important. However, people who are extremely weak actually do not have the strength to speak, or even to open their eyes. When you know this, it is actually the moment when her life comes to an end. My love simulation with them. Author, Chiudeo Udaziiwe. Chapter 70. Her eyes were closed tightly on the hospital bed. Unable to speak, she could only make an extremely lengthy inhalation sound, and there was no exhalation sound for a long time. There is no flashback, and there are no final farewell words in the comic. Her hard-working life has come to an end. She lay there, unable to laugh, cry, eat, or speak. Her flowers have really withered. You have lost someone who will always love you. You lost the person you loved forever. At the funeral, in accordance with her last wish, you played the last audio recording she made during her lifetime. Her cheerful voice rippled and sounded again under the falling snowy sky. The memory scene in the simulation is heavy white snow. Everything seemed to be covered in snow. The only one not covered in snow. It was her still cheerful, enthusiastic, and happy voice in the audio. Hey, hey, is there anyone? Let me out. I'm not dead. Bang bang bang, simulates the sound of the urn being knocked from the inside. Hey, let me out quickly, Ashi, are you really willing to put the lovely Lord Kinzu into such a small urn? Get a bigger one. One that can fit with you, that big luxurious box. In the audio, Nishiki Kishu made a pitiful woo 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 sound twice. When Nan Xiang was called out first, he just showed a helpless smile as if he saw her in person. He didn't know the content of Qian Shu's recording, but he didn't expect that at the last moment of farewell, she would still be so innocent and lively, bringing smiles to others. Wait. Sensu-sama heard it? Who is that? Takina. You are crying too loudly, aren't you? Really, Stop crying, I will punish you if you do this again. I will come to you in your dreams every night? He. Nishiki Kishi's voice was filled with disgust. Inu Takina, who was still crying, burst into laughter after hearing the other party's infectious voice. Speaking of which, Sister Ruxi and store manager Mika, are you two really staying up late smoking and drinking again? It's obviously already this kind of occasion, so you should at least take care of your own health. Don't let Master Qianshu worry about you all the time. Understand? A preaching voice came from the audio. Mika, the store manager of Rico Rico, and Mizuki Nakahara, the Rico Rico waiter next to him, heard this and looked at each other subconsciously. When they realized that the other person seemed to have stayed up all night and had dark circles under his eyes, they looked at each other helplessly and smiled. She had guessed it all. Wu-Dao, do you think Master Qianshu didn't tell you about you? Don't forget, if you have any interesting games, you should bring them over to pay homage to me first. The deceased is the most important. Do you understand? Wu-Dao, the senior netizen who was named, did not say anything. He just looked at Nishiki Kishi's favorite board game in his arms and fell into deep thought. Bang bang. There was a crisp clapping sound in the audio. This attracted everyone's attention. Okay, don't be sad, Master Qianshu is not going anywhere, he is right next to you. You don't really think this little box can trap Master Qianshu, do you? Let's go, let's go. Master Qianshu wants to go somewhere else to be cute, so he won't pay attention to you crybabies. The sound of rapid footsteps. But soon, the footsteps stopped. The golden wood on the other side of the voice seemed to come back again. Well, forget it, let me have one last word with you. In the audio, she was still smiling and speaking in a flirtatious tone. But I love you all. Real. Goodbye, but don't come to me so early. The voice drawled. Then disappear. Everyone present snuggled together. Some of them expressed helplessness that she was still being funny during the final farewell moment, and expressed their appreciation for her humor and optimism. At this time, Nan Xiangxi, who was holding her in his arms, raised his head. The snow is still falling. It seemed as if everything was going to be dyed white. In the snowy sky. I think I saw it when I was in Nangxiang. The enthusiastic and cheerful girl put her hands behind her back and gave him a sunny smile. The snow continues to fall. In this snowy funeral, she quietly fell asleep on the earth. She will never wake up again. Realizing this, when entertaining guests at the funeral, Inu Takina couldn't stop the tears from the corners of her eyes. At the same time, the black-haired girl also noticed. Your expression is as calm as ever, and you even talked and laughed with the guests when entertaining them. You were too indifferent, even indifferent, which made her dissatisfied. You know, the person Nishiki Kishu loved most during his lifetime was you, but you did not respond to his expectations at all. Even if Nishiki Kishu passes away, Inu Takina has never seen you shed a single tear. Inu Takina doesn't understand, thinking that your heart is made of steel, and you actually have no feelings about the death of Nishiki Chisu. After barely finishing the work of entertaining guests, this time, she quietly followed you as you headed to the personal lounge. When she came to the door, she originally wanted to vent her emotions about the death of Nishiki Kishu but your lack of emotion. But as soon as her fingers touched the door handle, her whole body stopped. Because she clearly heard your lengthy sighs behind the private lounge door. She is silent. At this time, she realized that you are Jinmyukinshu's favorite person, but at the same time, Jinmyukinshu is also your favorite person. My favorite woman passed away, how could she be as strong as she appeared on the outside? Not having emotional fluctuations in front of outsiders is the dignity you left to Nishiki Kishu. Listening to your sigh, Inu Takina's feeling of calling for punishment disappeared and was replaced by deep worry. After hesitating for a long time, She finally opened the door and entered, communicating with you and comforting each other. The relationship between her and Nishiki Kishu is deeper than that of biological sisters. As Nishiki Kishu's favorite person, she should take care of you now that you are so depressed that you can't help yourself. You did not reject the kindness of this beautiful black-haired girl with Japanese style. Because you know that at times like this, you cannot stay alone. Holding back the emotions in your heart will only make you think wildly and only add to your worries. As the sister Nishiki Chisu cared about most during her lifetime, Inu Takina had a more serious personality. You were worried that she would do something stupid without you noticing. The funeral was held for 2 days, and on the day when the funeral was completely over, Like reopened its business. For this reason, the store manager Mika specifically came to talk to you. His meaning is actually very simple. Nishiki Kishu has passed away. Now you who have been working hard for her can actually let go of Riko and pursue the life you want. He doesn't want you to be bound by Nishiki Chitsu's influence and stay in Riko, which doesn't have much future. You also responded seriously to the store manager's persuasion and concerns. Perhaps you came to work at Riko just for Nishiki Kishu at first, but now it's completely different. After working here for a long time, you have already regarded Like as your second home. Now you are not staying here for Nishiki Kishu, but out of your own will, you are willing to stay here and continue working. Mika was moved by your seriousness and responsibility, and he bowed to you to express his gratitude, because if you weren't there, the sales of Like would probably plummet. The days go on. Working at Riko, you have obviously noticed that Takina Inu spends more time looking at you recently. She even gives you a cup of coffee and pats your shoulders when you are taking a break. Her proactive contact makes you very concerned, but every time you take the time to ask the other party for specific reasons, you will always be dismissed by the other party with the topic of caring about colleagues. You have nothing to do about this. You have to take time to help her when she is busy, and occasionally make time to chat with her. After all, you once promised Nishiki Kishu to take good care of Inu Takina. Your relationship with Inu Takina has deepened. Nangxiangshi. It's a bit strange. This week it was clear that Nishiki Kishu had passed away, but the simulation did not end. In other words, is it possible that I will have other developments in the future? Staring at Inu Takina's name, Nango murmured to himself. Day after day, through contact with you, Inu Takina gradually gets to know you as a person. You are very serious when working, without relaxing at all, and you are very cheerful and enthusiastic towards everyone. Gradually, she begins to be attracted to you. Similarly, she also discovered that every time you talk about Nishiki Kishu, your always calm and handsome face always reveals a look of sadness and reminiscence that cannot be concealed. She knows that maybe you haven't come out of the shadows yet. Thinking of this, she finally applied to the store manager, hoping that you could live in the same dormitory with her, and that she would temporarily take care of your food and daily life. And this is actually more in line with the store manager's ideas. Your work attitude is impeccable, but if you keep tightening your grip, sooner or later you will collapse from exhaustion. They have already regarded you as family, and it seems like a good idea to let Inu Takina take care of you. Faced with their well-intentioned arrangements, you did not refuse, because you also discovered that something was wrong with your state recently. Perhaps leaving yourself to others to take care of is indeed a good choice. You are living with Inu Takina. Ah. No. Looking at this line of words, Nangxiangshi was stunned for a while. Living together? And Takina Inu? Are you serious? No wonder the whole simulation isn't over yet. The rest of the plot turns out to be here.